Hi guys, I want to make a slight counterpoint to a video that I saw Paul Thorpe make, but this is not going back to old territory or fighting amongst ourselves or anything else. It's just a pure political point, one that I don't know if he considered, and I'm willing to bet if he was to talk to me to say no, although I'm guessing, and I'm also willing, but maybe he has, or maybe he just thinks it's not practical. Either way, I want to offer a different solution, but let me just quickly let you know what he said. So he was talking about the local elections, which we need to remember are local elections and not general elections. And it's important to, I know that they're still significant, but it's important to remember that. So it doesn't need to be necessarily a party that you back per se. So what Paul was saying, and there's truth to what he is saying. At the moment, you're in a position where Advance and Restore are not going to be. Well, Restore's not even. Neither of them are in the race for the local elections. So who have you got left to vote for? He says Reform. And I would argue that. Okay, well, then that's also just the same as making a Conservative vote. To be honest with you, either one of those are better than if you're going to use the logic of it's better than the Green Party, which I agree with that much, then why just Reform? So I'll give you an example. In my area, there's some independent candidates that are actually really, really popular and possibly are actually going to win here. It's looking very good for them. I've heard there are independents in other places that are doing very well. Not obviously not everywhere, and in my area, we're usually the last to get everything. So there weren't like independent candidates. There weren't very many voting options here before. So if we've got it here, what I'm saying is they're definitely going to have it in other places because we get everything last in places like where I live because it's small. People aren't so worried about catching places like this, you know. So there's independent candidates. Yes, there's Reform candidates. There's also Conservative candidates. My only point being is all three of those are just as lesser evil as both of those other options are just as lesser evil as voting Reform. And my only political argument is that Paul is making an argument for one party because he says he knows people in Reform. Well, anecdotal stuff is irrelevant. But some people might feel they can't stomach that, or some people may, and I would just argue to you that I agree with part of the point that he's making. That is, you don't want the Greens getting hold of your councils because they can do a lot of damage. But let's not call Reform the only show in town because it's not. Because when you're talking about individual council seats, it's different. You could go for an independent who you know is on the right. You could go for a Conservative who you know is at least not Green Party. And you could go for, and I'm no Conservative fan. And yeah, you could go for Reform. All pretty shitty options, to be quite frank. Although the independent ones, if they do it, might be kind of cool. Obviously, you've got to check their politics out if you don't know about them, but a lot of the ones that are doing well are already known. So, and some of you won't have those options. So your option will probably only be Reform if you want to vote that way, or again, Conservative. So all I wanted to say as a counterpoint to his video was, I don't see, again, if it was a general election, then you're trying to vote for one party, right? To get them in. So I get it. But this isn't a general election, this is a local election. So any party that's not the Greens getting in, or that's not left wing getting in, is a win. Or at least the lesser of the two evils, like he's trying to say. So my thoughts are, and it's not just Reform. I think Paul made a mistake there, in my opinion. Or at least when I say made a mistake, I just didn't consider all options. Maybe that those independents are out there and doing, some of them doing very well. And like I say, even Conservative, as much as we hate them, if we're going to say hold your nose and vote for Reform, well, what's the difference then? Hold your nose and vote for Conservative. It's the devil you know, and it's just for a council seat. I do agree with him. We've got to stop the Greens. We've got to stop the Greens, and these are the only current methods of doing it. But I just disagree with him that the reform's the only way of doing it. There are other parties that could do it. Not many, but there are others that could do it. And if you're lucky enough to be in one of those places where they've got a realistic chance of winning, you know, it's worth it. So it's not just reform, it's a few people. So I agree with his basic premise. It's just, I think, if you look into details a bit more, there's a few more options than perhaps he's presenting. Again, this is only a counter argument to the political point, not a video going against Paul Forbes or anything like that. I'm over all of that, yeah? It's just a political point. And just one I wanted to make, because I just felt I needed to expand the people's idea of what the voting options are. Anyway, Tom Fury, Zero News, calling it day for now.